Hi everyone, I'm Kenny with Huskiana Letterpress, and today we are going to be looking at how you can turn a image into a letterpress block using 3D printing. So a couple things before getting started that you should make sure you have on hand. First is you're probably going to want to use a mouse for this. When we get to the 3D modeling portion, there are elements of working in the 3D space that are far more feasible when using a mouse rather than a trackpad. You also are going to need Illustrator and TinkerCAD. TinkerCAD is a free online software. You may also find that Photoshop is helpful. You want to use Photoshop to clean up, small errors and printing issues from historical images if you are adapting a historical image to a 3D print. Today, though, we'll be starting with an image that is cleanly printed and taking it through the process to turn it into a letterpress printable 3D model. So let's get started. Here I am in Illustrator. First, I am going to open the image I want to create the print of. And there we go. It'll open right up for us. Now, got my image. The first thing I want to do is to go to View, Show Transparency Grid. This is important because when we vectorize the image so that it may be converted to the 3D model file type that we need, I want to make sure that there is no white left. Only the black lines and fills of this image should be present to ensure that it converts cleanly into a 3D image. The next thing I'm going to want to do is to reflect the image. That way it will print with a proper orientation. I just went to transform, reflect, and I want to select vertical reflection. Right, it is now reflected. Then going to go to Object, Image Trace, Make, and this will turn the image into a vector. There are a couple settings gotta make sure are enabled here by clicking on the image trace panel. First, I want to make sure the mode is black and white like it is now. There are presets here that you might want to adjust. This is a pretty simple image, which I recommend for 3D printing, and black and white logo fits for it. But you might find that it's easier to start with high fidelity photo and then move into black and white under the mode if you need more detail. So you get more detail. There's some sliders here that you can adjust as well. Threshold will impact how black it is, how much black compared to how much white. You can see with less, it's a narrower image. With more, here it is a thicker image. Paths will influence how many paths there are. And here I want to max out my paths, try and get the cleanest rendering available, almost all the way. And corners will max out how many corners there are. Again, this is a sort of trial and error type process, so I encourage you to adjust these sliders to try and create the most accurate vector representation possible. The most important thing to click on this step, however, is ignore white. As you can see, that sets the background to be transparent rather than white, which is necessary for the file conversion. All right, this looks good. I'm going to click expand, and that will finalize the vector. Cool, it's ready to go to the 3D print software once we save it as a proper file type. So, excuse me, the 3D modeling software, which will prepare it for 3D printing, I should say. So, you want to go to Save As, and I encourage you to save it as an Illustrator file. That is important to save it as an Illustrator file. But you should save it as an SVG file as well. The SVG file will allow you to import it into the TinkerCAD software. The Illustrator file is useful if you want to go back and tweak your tracing or anything else to troubleshoot or to create different types of the image, etc. We'll save it as Marshmallow Demo. Now, you might notice that this is set to SVG 1.0. That is very important. You do not want 1.1, you want 1.0. Again, that is readable by the TinkerCAD software. Cool, it has been saved. We are now ready to go to TinkerCAD. Great, we are now at TinkerCAD. We just went to tinkercad.com and I logged into my profile. We're going to go to Create New Design. And you see that we have been loaded with a nice grid here. First thing we're going to want to do is import the design we just made. Go and click Import. Choose a file, navigate to where the file was saved, and then open it. Now you might find that you're facing something that is larger than the workspace limit, so you might need to change the dimensions, which will change proportionally. You can also select for it to center on the art. And I know that this art is quite large, so I'm just going to scale it down to 50%. It is importing. Great, I have the image. Now you can see it is very, very large. So what I'm going to want to do is resize it. Now I am not going to resize it by dragging. That is going to be very imprecise for our purposes. Don't do that. Instead, I'm going to left click on one of the corners and then click on the size. That will allow me to change the size of the image through typing the desired numerical size I want. Now note that sizing here is done in millimeters. So you might need to do some conversions. Today I'm trying to create an image that is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. You typically always want your letterpress designs to be in increments of 0.5 inches, since that corresponds with typical 12-point deviations of font size, so 12 point, 24 point, 36 point, etc. So 1.5 inches is roughly equal to 38.1 millimeters. Type that in there. You can see it's adjusted that side. And I'm going to make this image square by typing it in there as well. Now you might notice that it is currently off the grid. If I just click and drag, I will bring it back onto the grid. I'm zooming in and out by using the scroll wheel on my mouse, and I can adjust the view by holding the third button on my mouse, that scroll wheel, and adjust the view this way by using the right mouse button. So we got our image resized. We are now going to add a box. Now, in order to create the letterpress block, we are essentially going to place the design that we have created on top of this box and scale it to the proper size. So first, I got my box. I am now going to change its dimensions to match with the design. So 38.1 on one side and 38.1 on the other side. Great. Now we need to get the marshmallow on top of the box. How do we do that? Well, we're going to use the work plane tool over here. Click on work plane. Then you're going to want to click on the top of the box you've just created. That will set the top as your work plane space. All right, it has been set. Now select the marshmallow design and press D. That will bring the design up to the height of the box, as you can see here. I'm now going to drag the marshmallow design to be squarely on top of the box. Note that it fits perfectly right there on top. It fits in the edges, all that. You want to ensure that the design you've created fits nicely on top of the box. Now, This is currently looking a little tall, the marshmallow design. So I'm going to bring it down to about 5 millimeters. There you go, that's looking a bit more proportional. However, the most important thing when letterpress printing is ensuring that everything is type high, that the wood block, or in this case, 3D printed letterpress block that you are creating, is going to be the same height as any text it is nearby when getting printed. So we need to adjust the height of this whole thing. First step in doing so is to click and drag a box around both shapes that you've created and click this button to group them. Now everything you do will affect both. You're then going to want to select the height box. Letterpress height, or type high, is 0.918 inches. We want to be just a little below that. It's better to be a little below than a little above, and sometimes 3D printing can be somewhat imprecise. So we are going to go with 23.1 millimeters. Note that the entire design shifted down slightly. And with that done, we're ready to go. You can now save this by exporting it as an STL file, which is a typical 3D print file. And I should have mentioned earlier, you can change the name in the top left corner. So I just downloaded Shiny Crift, but you might want to name it something more indicative like Marshmallow Demo. You're now able to send it off to your 3D print studio and get it 3D printed. That's all for today. Please refer to our written guide on the Huskiana Press website for more information. Thank you.